Imagine coming home from work, exhausted and eager to unwind. As you step inside your house and head to your bedroom, you discover your husband cheating on you with another woman in your own bed. Witnessing such betrayal irreversibly changes everything. This is precisely what happened to our protagonist, Jesus. During a break at work, Jesus inadvertently fell asleep and dreamt of catching her husband cheating. Realizing her break was nearly over, she quickly returned to work. As soon as she arrived, Jesus' boss intercepted her and requested a conversation. He handed her this month's salary in advance, totaling 1.5 million won, as per her request. He explained his frustration, having rushed to withdraw the money after she insisted against depositing it into her account. He expressed how much he respects her hard work and considers her a valuable member of the team, just like family. He didn't want to lose someone like her as an employee. Jesus expressed her gratitude. When her boss asked about her financial situation, she noted the challenge of high interest rates, making repayment difficult. Inquiring about her husband, since her boss heard he had recently gotten a job, Jesus explained that he was still in his apprenticeship stage and struggling to earn. She assured her boss that he was diligently working and things would improve soon. Her boss remarked that her husband should naturally work hard because she works tirelessly. Jesus returned to her duties, and one of the customers asked for more pork belly and called her Auntie. As Jesus served the customer, she overheard a couple talking about how much they cared for each other. This made her reflect on her own life, and she began an internal monologue. Couples in love are beautiful. Whether their love is a first-rate romance or a third-rate romance, their hearts shine brightly as one. Maybe it's just because youth is beautiful, a youth that dares to love passionately and get hurt. Does that mean my lukewarm life, which has already passed its prime, is no longer beautiful? The workday ended, and Jesus was getting ready to go home when her coworker expressed irritation at people calling Jesus Auntie. Jesus replied that it was expected since she's a married woman and a housewife. Her friend then said, "This is annoying. People are calling you Auntie, but you are very pretty. You are a beautiful 33-year-old woman." They laughed together and then went their separate ways toward home. As Jesus walked home, she began to reflect on her friend's words. She thought, "I thought you were prettier when you said that. She's easygoing, bright, and an easily likable person. All the youth in the world seemed beautiful and brilliant. That's why I was jealous, because I am no longer beautiful." When Jesus arrived home, her husband started complaining about her not dressing up or wearing makeup. He asked why she was walking around without makeup, saying it made him not want to come into the house. She replied that she couldn't afford makeup when they couldn't even pay the rent. He retorted that girls who work part-time jobs with lower salaries than hers still manage to wear makeup all the time, accusing her of being lazy and making excuses. Finally, he told her she needed to put on some makeup because your husband would like that. Jesus sat silently, her internal monologue swirling. Does love also grow old as time passes? Our relationship is worn out and tattered like a damp and old basement. A love that withered away faster than youth. A love that has long since dried up. So, is it the years that have withered me? Or is it the drudgery of working day and night to fill the hole in the bank balance? Is it you who makes me not beautiful? Or am I the one who lost my light because I love you? The next day, Jesus headed to her job at a flower shop. The girl who worked with her was shocked to learn that Jesus also worked at a butcher shop on weekday afternoons, at a motel reception on weekends, and as a florist in the mornings. Astonished, the girl asked, "Can anyone handle such a schedule?" Jesus calmly replied, "Relax and put on your apron. We need to open the store." The girl was amazed that despite all the stress, Jesus remained focused on her work. Jesus began reflecting on her past internal monologue and what had happened to her, saying, "All I've ever done is work. I haven't taken a break since I became an adult, except for the day I went to the ER with the flu when I was 24. Initially, I was busy managing my married life at a young age, without any help from my parents." Then, she explained that her husband had borrowed a lot of money under her name. He apologized, and she asked, "How much money did you borrow under my name?" At that moment, everything changed. She continued, "When I faced the debt that needed to be paid, I didn't feel particularly sad or depressed. I think I was rather calm, as if telling myself that if I worked hard enough, I'd pay it back someday. But occasionally, An unexpected rush of emotions would hit me so hard that I wanted to cry. I still have some debts faster than light. Then, a guy entered the store. Jesu's co-worker nudged her and said, "The rose guy is here." Jesu looked puzzled. "The rose guy?" she asked. Her friend explained, "He's a handsome man who buys a rose every day. We don't know his name, so the part-timers just call him that." Jesu watched as her co-worker walked straight to take his order, but accidentally bumped into Jesu without noticing. The girl asked the guy what flowers he wanted to order. However, the guy's eyes wandered until he noticed Jesu. He smiled and looked straight at her, saying, "I'd like to place an order. Please take my order." Jesu was taken aback and thought to herself, "What the hell? He's not that handsome guy who buys roses every day. He seems kinda weird." Despite her confusion, she managed to ask him, "A bouquet of roses, is that right?" The guy's face lit up. "Yes, you remember? I'm glad." Jesu started preparing his order, her mind drifting as she worked. In this world, there are people who are the center of everyone's attention, like the protagonist of a novel or movie. And there are others who are like pathetic extras in a story no one wants to hear about. That man was the former at first glance. And in my case, it's always been the latter, much to my annoyance, she thought. She walked over to him and handed him the order, continuing her internal monologue. Maybe that's the reason. This man who suddenly barged into my life, which was indifferent to everything but work and my husband, has left a deep impression on my mind. The girl who worked with Jesu was amazed and shocked by what had happened. She thought she'd been ghosted, but then she understood. She said to Jesu, "Did you see that? The guy wanted to order, but he wanted you to take his order, not me. I think he comes here just to see you." Jesu was puzzled. The girl continued, "He only comes to the store on weekday mornings when you work here, and he never speaks to the boss or me. But this is the first time I've seen him here." The girl was shocked and replied, "What? How could you not notice a guy like him who comes here to buy flowers every day? It's already been several months." Jesu thought to herself, and then remembered she had made a similar bouquet every single day. The girl who worked with her said, "It's not surprising, given your schedule. It's not easy for you to remember a regular customer. But somehow, it's still strange that you don't remember his face. I still remember the handsome guy I saw on the subway 10 years ago." She continued, "In my opinion, this guy is interested in you." Jesu replied mockingly, "You need to stop talking nonsense and get to work." The girl insisted, "It's not nonsense. Didn't you see him earlier? He was only looking at you, Jesu." Jesu retorted, "Did the young man take some medicine? To like some old woman. He looks 10 years younger than me." The girl replied, "You don't know anything. Nowadays, younger men dating older women is the trend. You never know, maybe he's genuinely interested. You are so pretty after all." Jesu responded, "I guess all the pretty people are dead if I'm considered pretty." The girl was shocked. "You are pretty, it's the truth. Don't people tell you that?" Jesu began to remember her friend from her other job who had told her the same thing. She thought to herself, "I was told recently. I knew it was all a nice lie to make a poor lady feel better, so it was more awkward than pleasant to hear. It was a little funny, too. Given that I am not loved by the man at home, I am hearing such things from others." The girl kept trying to cheer her up, saying, "Do your best. You two might be a good match." Jesus shocked the girl by saying, "I have a man." The girl was very surprised. "I had no idea. You should have told me sooner. So you have a man. What kind of person is he?" Jesus didn't answer this question. Her workday ended, and she went home before her husband arrived. When he got home, he carelessly threw his things on the floor like a little kid, saying, "I'm tired." He asked her for a glass of water, then said, "Don't you have anything boiled besides plain water?" She replied, "There is barley tea, but it hasn't cooled down yet." He said, "Put in some ice," and went to take a shower, throwing all his clothes on the floor. She cleaned up after him. When he finished showering, she was already in bed trying to sleep. He lay next to her and started touching her, trying to be intimate. He thought to himself, "She doesn't seem to be working out. The volume is still the same. Not long ago, my friend was bragging about meeting a younger woman, but she doesn't have a body as good as Nahaisu. But I will give her a pass on this one because she is always wearing baggy, auntie-like clothes." He then thought, "It's been a while since we were intimate." He kept touching her, but she didn't respond. He asked himself, But why doesn't she react when I'm touching her? He called out to her, asking if she was asleep. She answered tiredly, "No." He said, "Then why aren't you responding? It's not like you're a wooden doll. Wifey wants it to be fun, wants her husband to be nice to her. What's with your insensitivity?" She answered tiredly, "I'm a little tired." He got upset and said, "Do you think you're the only one working?" She replied sadly, "I had a lot of part-time work." He retorted angrily, Forget it, forget it. What was I expecting? Shit!" Those words hurt Jesu's feelings, underestimated her efforts, and the struggles she was going through. The night ended, and the morning began. Jesu's day started at 6 o'clock in the morning on weekdays. The flower shop didn't open until 8 a.m., but she had to get up early to make breakfast for Minchiol. She had to close the door and cook quietly, so Minchiol wouldn't wake up from the noise. He didn't eat breakfast without soup and hated reheated food, so Jesu made fresh soup every morning, no matter how simple. If you look at it that way, the person who cooks breakfast leaves the house on an empty stomach to make it to work on time. She entered the flower shop, preparing to open. She put on her apron, telling herself she would hold her hunger until lunchtime. When they opened the store, a guy entered. She was about to ask for his order when she lifted her head and saw it was the rose guy. She was surprised but acted professionally, asking if he wanted his regular order. He said yes. While he was paying, she thought to herself, "Now I see that not only is his face handsome, but his voice is also wonderful. A slow, low voice that responds with a polite, 'Yes!' For some reason, my ears felt ticklish. When he finished paying, she gave him the receipt and said, 'There are some pending orders, so it will take a while. Please sit down and wait a moment.' Suddenly, her stomach rumbled loudly enough for the guy to hear. He left silently, taking his receipt and sitting down to wait. She wondered if he had heard it, feeling embarrassed, and told herself it was nonsense. A few minutes later, a big man stood outside, looking like a chauffeur, bringing some things. The rose guy took them, and it was a coffee and sandwich. As he walked back to the shop, the girl working with Jesu admired his looks. He entered the store again to take his finished order. She gave it to him, and he took it and left, but left the sandwich on the desk. Jesu saw this and ran after him, catching up to him. "You forgot your sandwich," she said. The guy looked at her and said, "It's a gift. Please accept it." She was shocked and replied, "What? Excuse me, I can't. If you give me something like this..." He didn't let her finish. "Why not? Is it because you have nothing to drink with it?" "Here," he said, handing her the coffee he was drinking. "I only had one sip. It's not poisoned." Jesu was very shocked and surprised by his actions. In a slow, low voice, he said politely, "Please accept it." Jesu returned to the store with a shocked expression, holding the sandwich and coffee the man had left for her. Her coworker noticed immediately and exclaimed, "I'm telling you, he likes you." "Look, he left the sandwich and coffee just for you. If that's not interest, then what is?" Jesu felt a mix of emotions, still processing the situation. What I thought at that moment was, do I really look that pitiful? When I glanced at my reflection in the window, I saw a haggard woman without makeup, covered in blotchy skin. The man's actions felt more like pity and charity rather than interest, and my stomach growled so loudly. If I were him, I would have found it hard to walk by too. But what if this is really a sign that he's interested? Then I should draw a line immediately, right? Considering I'm imagining things that might never happen, I suppose my job has become a bit easier. Her coworker interrupted her thoughts, asking, "What are you going to do now?" Jesu, still puzzled, responded, "About what? You said you had a boyfriend. So are you going to turn down the rose guy? Or maybe switch from your boyfriend to him?" Her coworker pressed. Jesu looked sad and replied, "He's not my boyfriend. He's my husband." Her coworker was surprised. "When you said you had a guy, you meant a husband, not a boyfriend?" "Yes," Jesu confirmed, her face reflecting sadness and hopelessness. The reason for this was because the man she called her husband had told her, "Don't make it so obvious. We split up over debt ages ago. You should only call me your husband at home. Why do you always have to tell everyone our business? It's not like it's something to brag about, living together after divorce." "Oh, this is so annoying." "All right, listen closely." Jesu and Minchiol went through a messy divorce because Minchiol took out money in Jesu's name, landing her in a heap of debt. Now, despite being divorced, They're stuck living under the same roof because he used her name for money laundering. Here's the kicker. Hae-soo is the one paying the rent and managing all the debt, while Minchul pretends nothing happened. He even demands that she calls him husband at home, even though they're not married anymore. On top of that, she's doing all the housework for him, clinging to his empty promise that they'll get married again. So, when the story began, and he was telling her to wear makeup at home, saying things like, "Your husband would like that," he wasn't genuinely calling himself her husband. He only uses that term to manipulate her when he wants something. Now, let's get back to the story. We head to the office where Minchul works. A lady offers him a cup of coffee with a note saying, "Let's do our best." Minchul is impressed by the gesture. It's break time, and he's outside smoking with his coworkers. They're talking about the lady who brought Minchul the coffee, Ari. They discuss how beautiful she is, and mention that she's 25 years old. They agree that women in their 20s are often at their most beautiful, with smooth skin and youthful vitality. One of Minchul's coworkers notes that Ari seems particularly interested in him, pointing out that her gaze is different when she looks at him. They mention that they tried to set her up with someone else, but she declined, saying she wasn't interested. Another coworker then remarks, "You're 33, aren't you at the perfect age to meet someone? And you're still single, right?" Minchul glances at Ari and replies that he is indeed single. The workday ends, and both Hae-soo and Minchul head back home as usual. Hae-soo is doing the laundry while Minchul is resting. To break the silence, Hae-soo asks him how his day was. He responds, "Took you long enough to ask. Now you are wondering about your husband struggling? Every job is tough. What's the point in asking? You're nagging me while I'm trying to rest." Hae-soo tries to explain herself, saying she is not nagging. She starts talking about the future, saying, "Once you get your salary, we can pay off our debt faster, and then we can remarry." He responds, annoyed and indifferent, "All you talk about is damn remarriage this, remarriage that. Don't you think I'll do it once we clear the debt? Anyway, Hae-soo, how could you live without me, right? But don't push it." When a woman nags, a man is bound to run away. With those words, he gets close to her and starts asking her for money, telling her that he needs to buy cologne. She is surprised because he usually doesn't use it. He explains that since he started working, he sees many well-groomed guys out there. Even older guys are wearing cologne. She asks how much it costs, and he gives her a price that surprises her because it's too expensive. He starts complaining, "At my age, I should at least get a department store brand. I'm not going to buy the cheap kind that kids use." He walks away from her, annoyed, and says, "Fine, forget it. If you don't want to give it to me, then don't." The night ends, and the next morning begins. We see Hae-soo going through the expenses for the month. "We had a lot of expenses this month because of Minchul getting the job. We spent a lot of money just on getting a new suit and shoes. It's true that when you start working, your expenses exceed your income for a while. No matter how much we save, we're still in the red. I think I might even need to take on more work," she thinks to herself. She took an envelope and put it in her pocket, and then she left money on the table with a note saying, "Buy the cologne," deciding that on the weekend she will work at the motel from afternoon to evening. If she takes a night shift at the convenience store afterward, it shouldn't overlap. She decides to just cut down on sleep, dividing her day into pieces and filling the remaining time with work. All this just for her happy family and home. Hae-soo leaves home for her other job. We then transition to see the rose guy, whose name we learn is Beom Tae-ha. He is with a friend and offers to buy dinner. His friend wonders if he is okay with it because Beom Tae-ha usually doesn't like noisy places. The friend starts calling other friends, and Beom Tae-ha tells him to call whoever he knows. While the friend is calling, he thinks to himself, "It's really strange. Even the guy who won't go to cheap restaurants is rushing, decisively. Lately you seem happier." The friend finishes his calls, and they both head to the restaurant to meet the others. We then see Hae-soo at her job serving at a restaurant. A group of men are drinking and eating, talking disparagingly about their wives. One of them says, "If the wife is wise and affectionate, she'll naturally earn money and sacrifice for the family, right?" Hearing this triggers a memory in Hae-soo, and she thinks to herself, they have a taste for excitement and fun, but aren't necessarily affectionate towards their wives. Is it even possible to say that we have now developed apathy? At one point, they were very affectionate. "You used to be like that. Was I not wise enough or affectionate enough? Did I ruin our relationship, as they say?" Her thoughts are interrupted by her boss calling her to serve a new customer. When she approaches, she is shocked to see that the new customer is the rose guy, Biom Teha, with his friends.